Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to something else. Something else, Daddy.
This is Nicole Matala, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 156 of Something Else. It is Wednesday, so it is Total Nonstop Arya. And of course, we're talking about NWA TNA from January 8th, 2003. New Year, same old shit. And joining me as always is the wonderful, the amazing, the tremendous, Cindy. Cindy, how the fuck are you? Long time no talk.
I'm trying to find snow leopards in Far Cry 4. That's how much I care about this show right now.
Oh Lord, 2003. I don't know. I seem to remember 2003 being a good year for TNA. It did not start off very well.
No, I hear it's the spring where it gets better.
Yes, Raven's coming in 2 weeks, leading to the biggest drawing show that they do of the weekly pay-per-view era. So we'll see how well that angle holds up.
Even more than Jeff Hardy versus Jeff Jarrett?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But that is still a few weeks to go. So how was your holiday season?
Very good. I got myself a weighted blanket for Christmas.
Nice. Nice.
And just let everybody know, weighted blankets are awesome.
You will not get any you will not get anything from me saying otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Easy for me to say, right?
Yep. You have a weighted blanket, I'm assuming.
I do. I do. It is quite good.
Yep. How many pounds is your weighted blanket?
I honestly couldn't even tell you. I've had it for about a year, so whatever it is, I'm just used to it.
Okay.
What about yours?
I think it's about 15.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And
I got like $100 Amtrak gift card, so I'll probably use that to do the Coastal Starlight trip to Los Angeles later on in the year.
Nice. Well, I hope that's a fun little trip for you there.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not a fun trip.
Going to Nashville in January of 2003.
Yep. Let's just rip off the Band-Aid.
Right, so since Jerry Jarrett's book is no longer a thing, he ends it at the end of 2002. I dive into the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week to get some TNA news, and there really isn't much to talk about because nothing can go right for us on this show this week. The big news for TNA is they've signed a deal to air the show starting from the beginning in a handful of countries, including India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Middle East. Now, we are forcing people in these countries to watch the Dup Cup, to watch Puppet pulling a gun on Jeff Jarrett, to watch Puppet masturbating in a trash can, to watch Ed Ferrara. It's no wonder why these countries hated us there for a while.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, there is good news and bad news about this week's show. The good news is they fill every single fucking seat in that arena. 1,300 people with a turn-away crowd outside. The bad news is almost none of them paid for their tickets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's like those old WCW. Remember when they would rent out a little arena for Pro and Main Event? Mm-hmm. This is before they moved those shows to Universal. And that's exactly what they did. They papered, so they had 2,000 some odd people.
Pretty much.
In those arenas. Yeah. It was pretty bad. What's also worse is it starts off with something nobody likes with this show.
Uh, no, actually, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but I hope not, because in my opinion, it was one of the best things on the show. They began with a 7-minute video package recapping everything that's happened since November 20th when Jarrett won the world title. I say that was a really good idea, so especially since it's been 3 weeks since the last show.
I was
However,
talking
yeah,
about the long 12-minute promo battle between Mike Tenay and Vince Russo after that.
it only went 12. I thought it went 3 hours on its own.
No, that's the interview that's going to take place next week. Spoiler.
So we have the official debut of the new TNA logo. It's the logo that is primarily used throughout like the first 10 years or so. You know, if you watched TNA back then, you know what I'm talking about. It's better than just the block letters that they had. However, like, last week, or not last week, but 3 weeks ago, Russo came in and he ripped up all the banners with the old logo on. He tore down the part of the set that had the TNA logo on. A, it never got mentioned this week. And B, if he had such a problem with the TNA name and the TNA logo and all that, why was he okay with it being up this week?
Because the logo's not shit.
I, I mean, but that wasn't his complaint. If he came out and said, "I hate this logo. It sucks. We need a better logo," like, okay, great, we got a better logo. But no, this was just like, for whatever reason, he decided to tear apart, you know, all the stuff with the old logo on it, and again, never got brought up, never anything. So anyway, give us some Mike Tenay. Tell the people what all that happened.
Well, it started out with Mike Tenay and with 4 people in the ring, 3 people on one side of the ring, and 2 people working security. Mike Tenay said represented the past, the present, and the future of professional wrestling. The past, on the side of the ring, Corsica Joe, Sarah Lee, and Eddie Marlin, who is the grandfather of Jeff Jarrett. In the ring is the present. You have Truth, Jerry Lynn, and America's Most Wanted. And on the outside, you had Chris Vaughn and Rick Santana.
Rick Santel.
Rick Santel.
Yes.
Um,
They're the future of the NWA. And
by the way, I looked it up. Neither one of them amounted to anything.
I was gonna say they are the future does not look very bright.
No, they wrestled a couple of times, mainly on Explosion, but that's it.
Now, today, because let's face facts, the babyface side does not have a lot of great promos right now. You know, they
It's
have,
Jarrett, and that's it.
and maybe Truth. And even Truth, it's been a weird babyface turn, that he kind of has done. Um, so Tanay's there basically to cut the babyface promo for everybody. By the way, Bullet Bob's a great promo too. Bullet Bob could have been fucking doing this promo. That would have been great.
Mm-hmm.
But Tanay starts talking about how he'd sit in WCW production meetings with Vince Russo, and Russo would talk about how anybody could become a wrestler. David Arquette could be a wrestler. He could be a wrestler. Ed Ferrara could be a wrestler. And of course,
Judy Bagwell could be a wrestler. The Nitro Girls could be a wrestler.
to be fair, Judy Bagwell wasn't entirely his fault. That already started before, Vince Russo, received an Atlanta paycheck. But
That was
yeah,
Bischoff's fault then.
yeah. The Nitro Girls can be wrestlers, and if it's like Tenay was forewarning us about a really stupid fucking angle we're gonna see later. But so this brings out Russo and Sports Entertainment Extreme. He comes like the entire fucking group. It was Desire, Sonny Siaki, who, while they never flat out said Siaki was in the group last week, it was strongly implied, and he is now. The Harrises, BG, David fucking Flair, Daniel, Skipper, and Low Key are all out there. Russo gets in Tanay's face because He says he's not going to come out here and rant and rave tonight. He's here because he has friends in high places. That is why SEX is allowed to walk in here every week and why they have their own music now. And he says that wrestling sucks because of people like Mike Tenay and how when he was in charge, ratings and pay-per-view buy rates were through the roof. And he gives professional wrestling 6 months before it dies without him. It is 2025, and I wish he would give us that chance. Russo runs down Corsica Joe and Sarah Lee. And Sarah, who, by the way, was 81 years old, was, to be honest, quite spry for 81, comes into the ring to flip off Russo. And we get the giant brawl before Jeff Jarrett and the Road Warriors charge of the ring to run off the entire 8-person heel faction. Great.
You're also forgetting about the 4 people in the ring, which was also Daniel, which was Truth, AMW, and Jerry Lynn. So it's more like 7 on 8. But no, it's actually 7 on 7, so it works because David Flair doesn't count.
But it was more those 3 than the other 4.
Yeah.
But anyway, SEX charged into the dressing room that's used for the cage dancers and took it as their dressing room. Now, I do need to let you know that I was having some issues with my flash drive, and so I ended up having to watch this show on the TNA Plus app. By the looks of it, I didn't miss anything, but in case there is anything, just pipe up and say some crazy thing that I missed.
Nobody gives a shit about the show anyway, so don't worry about it.
So
what was the runtime for?
Like an hour 51, I think.
That's about right.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the opener here? Or the opening segment, I guess?
It kind of gives me a reason why I think Worldwide back in WCW was done in Atlanta. Because remember, Tenay was doing a lot of that. I think he was also helping coach the wrestlers on how to do promos and how to do interviews. Because Tenay cut a really damn good promo. At least to me.
See, when you just said when he was helping coach and had that long delay, I'm like, when the hell was he helping Jonathan Coachman?
Probably brushing up his job resume at this moment because the Pac-12 network went away.
I honestly, I didn't hate this promo until the show kept fucking going because they were in pretty much every fucking segment of the show. It was fucking maddening. And case in point, the first match is Easy Money and Kid Cash versus Tony Mamaluke and David Young. So TNA's first match of 2003 features 3 former ECW wrestlers and the winless David Young. And while no one mentioned this, I assume team number 1 will be known as Cash Money. And if not, why not? Their name should be Cash Money. So the story of this match is David Young finally figured out that he's larger than everybody else in the X division and thus should use his size to his advantage. Cash Money did a spot where they both had one of Mamaluke's legs, and it's a thing where they roll through, and then Mamaluke is supposed to flip over and bump on his back. Well, I don't know what the hell happened here because they rolled through, and Mamaluke didn't move, and he just stayed right where he was.
Oops.
Yep. But the match, I thought went pretty well despite that. The biggest shock in the history of TNA happened because Young actually won the match, pinning Easy Money with a spine buster.
Yep. I think the match was supposed to end like 30 seconds earlier because there was a moment about 30 seconds before where he biffed the spine buster. He didn't get all of it. Mm-hmm. So they repeated the spot and he was able to get the 3.
Not that the crowd did not care about this, but after that fucking first segment, I think this would have been, much better received if it happened before the opening segment, especially since, in theory, that would then cut out what happens next, which, by the way, I gave this match before this next segment, before what happened afterwards happened, which I honestly should have lowered the rating, but I gave the match a 5.0 out of 10.
I gave it a 4.
Yep.
Because I did take into account what happened afterwards.
So, again, Jerry Jarrett, I don't know when Russo power plays Jerry Jarrett out, but Jerry Jarrett was still claiming he was the sole writer of this. But what happens next is pure Vince Russo. We can't just have a match with a winner and a loser and then move on to the next segment. We can't just put two guys over, give them a win, give them a little bit of credibility, and move on with our lives. No. After the match, Daniels, Skipper, and Low Key run in and take out all four men. Nice job burying these guys who just busted their ass to have a good match. It gets better.
Don't
Skipper
worry
that
about it. Yeah.
yeah. Skipper
Also,
then
sorry, go ahead.
oh do you have anything to say before I get to the Skipper promo?
Oh yeah. Happy days are here again for you, Arya, because this is the last appearance of Easy Money.
Yeah.
TNA is saved.
He tried to kill the company to no avail.
No, he will appear a couple more times on Explosion as Jason B in a couple of weeks after this, but he is no longer on the shows that we're watching.
So Skipper cuts a promo officially debuting the Triple X moniker for the three of them. And by the way, you would think, if you're going to have one of the three cut a promo, you'd have Daniels do it, but it's TNA. Why should they do anything right? And speaking of not being able to do anything right, Jeff Jarrett comes in and beats all three of them down, thus not only burying Triple X, but the four wrestlers in the opener. Jarrett tells us the NWA will be here long after all four of them are gone, and with champions like Tyrus and Bram, of course the NWA will be here forever.
Shocking.
Jarrett challenges them to 3 separate singles matches tonight, and then he promises to kick Russo's ass afterwards. So, yes, the biggest challenge for Jeff Jarrett is not the 3 wrestlers he's going to have 3 separate matches with, including one who is a former X Division champion, but the pasty, out of shape guy who never wrestles. That's the big one. That's the one that Jarrett wants more than anybody.
There's some logic to this though, because how many times have we seen in professional wrestling where you have the heel manager and the plucky babyface has to run through his gauntlet of guys? Like, take the Hart family, Jimmy Hart's the first family in Memphis, and you have Jerry Lawler. Like for a couple of weeks, he'd have to go up against Dream Machine, and then Joe LeDuc, or
But Jimmy Hart wasn't being pushed as this badass that can stand up for himself against the world champion. Jimmy Hart was a pussy that when he did get in the ring with Lawler, he had to have a partner on his side who would take, 99% of the match, leaving the final minute for Jimmy Hart to get his ass kicked. I was just watching the Tokyo Dome shows, and they're doing this angle where Shota Umino has to go through all of the Death Riders to get to John Moxley. He's not going through all the Death Riders so he could wrestle. I don't fucking know. I don't even know who the hell would be a
Marina
good
Shafir.
comparison. I would even say Marina Shafir because Marina Shafir is at least a wrestler. He's not going through all of the Death Riders so you could have a match with Tony Khan, and Tony Khan is being pushed as the biggest badass out of all of them. You know, his end game is Moxley, another wrestler. And you can say what you want about AEW, you can say what you want about New Japan. The second they start pushing Tony Khan as a giant badass that nobody can beat up, I'll fucking lose my shit then. But until then, they're all they could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So to the back, Goldylocks interviewed Bullet Bob allegedly in the NWA locker room. Bullet Bob sent America's Most Wanted off to call somebody, and Bullet Bob promised to win this war with Russo. Jerry Lynn and the Truth were there. They vowed to make a stand, and then Bullet Bob took James Storm's phone and told somebody to get here, saying he'll have a driver pick him up right now. And knowing who this was, why did Chris Harris and James Storm have this person's phone number?
Uh, I'll explain that when we get to it.
Okay.
Because I have ideas.
You have ideas why? Okay, we'll
Yeah.
get to it. Okay. So, because TNA's got a TNA, the next match is X Division champion Sonny Siaki versus Jason Cross, who won a gauntlet match on our last show to get this title match, which, okay, great. Hey, he's getting his title match. We'll get to it, but we're still fucking waiting for Divine Storm to get their title match. Um, but anyway, so Sonny Siaki comes out, and on the last show, he was given Desire as his woman, as a basically a thank you for joining Sports Entertainment Extreme. And we were told her name was Every Man's Desire. Well, on the way out, she gets called Desire. The on-screen graphic calls her Miss Sex.
Sex. Yeah.
So Don West calls her Miss Sex, and today's like, what? Why would you call her that? And Don West didn't even know how to answer. It's like, what it said on the screen. And she gets called Miss Sex, Desire, and Every Man's Desire in a 10-second period. Now,
Man, more gimmick changes than Barry Darso on WCW Saturday Night in 1999.
I will say when Desire debuted a few weeks ago, I noted that she looked like Christy Hemme if Christy Hemme did hardcore porn. Well, she improved her looks. She no longer looks like Christy Hemme if Christy Hemme did hardcore porn. So now,
What does she look like now?
she looks like an average woman from Nashville or the Nashville area. Okay,
And
so
I'll reiterate this because it's been 3 weeks. In real life, Desire is actually Sonny Siaki's girlfriend. So, following another classic trope of professional wrestling, remember how Jimmy Garvin had what was the first one?
Precious,
Precious
Sunshine.
first. Yeah,
No,
Precious and
no,
then Sunshine.
Sunshine was first, then Precious.
Right. And they had those two feud and then got
Mm-hmm.
rid of Sunshine because Precious was actually Jimmy Garvin's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying that's why Sonny Siaki isn't with Jimmy Yang and what's his name anymore? Jorge Estrada because he needed to insert Desire?
Sure, why not? Makes as much sense as most of the stuff does in TNA at this point.
All right. So I think you and I may have another disagreement about this and Jason Cross specifically. However, I'll say this: if you rank the X division in tiers, you would say that AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, Low Key, and Sonny Siaki are your top tier. Then
Yeah.
underneath it, Amazing Red, SATs, Kid Cash, and the recently departed Easy Money are probably the second tier.
I would
Jason,
put I would put Tony Mamaluke there too.
well, Jason Cross is about a seventh tier X Division guy, so of course Siaki needs help to win. Desire interferes freely, which makes it hilarious because they keep mentioning throughout the show that titles can change hands by a DQ, so you know that's got to come up at some point. The referee gets bumped, and Cross hits his crossfire, which is a shooting star press into a leg drop. However, Desire pulls him crotch first into the ring post, and Siaki retains his title.
Via a
It,
roll up.
yes, it seems impossible. I know I keep saying this. It seems impossible to believe that Russo has nothing to do with the booking because Siaki did not need interference to beat someone at the level of Jason Cross. Jason Cross would have been elevated just by having a good competitive match with Sonny Siaki. And I say the match was fine until the ridiculous, unnecessary finish that will get even more ridiculous and unnecessary in about 10 seconds. But I gave this match a 3.0 out of 10. And Cindy, who I'm assuming is still there, but she's on mute, so there's something going on over there. So we'll go on to what happened afterwards. So Sonny Siaki pins Jason Cross, Bullet Bob charges to the ring and informs the referee that this match is going to be restarted because we're not going to end the match on a bullshit finish like that. And, okay, Bullet Bob is the authority figure in charge. He has the say. And then Vince Russo charges out and informs us that Jason Cross is not in shape to continue, and then has Ron or Don Harris beat the shit out of Cross and throw him out of the ring. Russo and Bullet Bob exchange words, and Vinny pokes Bullet Bob in the chest, and I was hoping Bullet Bob would lay that motherfucker out. Unfortunately, it did. Not only did it not happen, but Russo told BG to beat his dad up. And before that could happen, Jerry Lynn and Ron Killings charged of the ring for the save. And Bullet Bob, instead of disqualifying Sonny Siaki and changing the title, instead of, restarting the match, which I guess now Jason Cross can't restart the match, but he could still put the fucking belt on him. Instead, Bob demands the bell ring, and we have a tag team match. Now, Jason Cross is perhaps the worst push in TNA history. Let me tell you,
that takes some doing. So I want to hear this.
Let me tell you why. So Jason Cross had his debut on pay-per-view on either the 4th or the 11th, and they made a big fucking deal about it. They're like, hey, it's this guy, Jason Cross. We've seen him on our syndicated show, Explosion. He has an awesome fucking move. He's going to fucking kill it. And then he proceeds to lose to a guy that never wins a match on the show. Okay. The second week, you can argue they may have made up for it. Jason Cross wins a gauntlet match with all the X Division guys, and he now gets an X Division title match. All right. Good for Jason Cross. So Jason Cross got screwed here. And Jason Cross, by the letter of the booking, should probably be the X Division champion as a result of a disqualification. Do you want to know the next time Jason Cross wins a match on a show that you and I are going to watch?
Never.
It is 2025. We're still waiting for that. Jason Cross never wins another match on either on a TNA pay-per-view. He's here until I think May, and then makes sporadic appearances over the next 2 years, and that's it. And his only win was in that gauntlet match last week. And yeah, I gotta say, quite the push for this guy.
Yeah, I'm looking up stuff, and he actually appears once on Ring of Honor.
I believe it.
This is also around the time when Ring of Honor and TNA were still sharing X Division members.
Yes, because Rob Feinstein, LOL, I'll pretend you said 18 hadn't happened yet.
Right.
So what was your rating for the Siaki match?
A 3.
That's what I gave it. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, if I would have waited to see the post-match, I'd probably given it a lower rating.
I didn't factor in the post-match. But to be honest, if I did factor in the post-match, it'd be about 1.5.
Yeah. So I'll say this, because we're getting into the next match, which is, as mentioned, Ron Killings and Jerry Lynn versus Don Harris and BG James. These shows are going quicker. Because, by the end, not this match, but by the end of the tag title match, which is next, we're like, I look at the clock and there's only like 30 or 40 minutes left. I'm like, this is going faster than usual. So I guess, if nothing else, we'll give it that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind, despite the shows going faster, we still have to watch the fucking heresies in major angles and matches. So this was a giant brawl all over the arena. James took a stiff shot to the mouth and was busted open. Dawn and Truth fought in the audience as Lynn and James do battle in the ring. The Pier 6 breaks down into a tag team match, which is when I noticed that there was a pole attached to one of the corners. And I'm like, are we going to get a Vince Russo special tonight? Oh my God, are we going to get a Vince Russo special tonight?
We're going to chat about that match because I have thoughts.
Oh, yeah. So they get the heat on Lynn, who, I know you'd be surprised to hear this, but Jerry Lynn does a really great job of selling and plays the Ricky Morton role very well.
Mm-hmm.
Truth gets a hot tag and runs wild. Truth hits a 450 knee drop to BG's ribs before we see the fucking debut of Mike Sanders of all people. Mike Sanders runs in and attacks Truth and Lynn, which leads to a disqualification. So Sanders, Don, and BG beat down Lynn and Killings before walking off together. And this match was not setting the world on fire before the disqualification. 2.0 out of 10.
Exactly what I gave it as well, 2.0. Just what we needed, the worst member of the Natural Born Thrillers to debut.
Now, Mark Jindrak is still in the other company.
I'd rather have Jindrak.
I don't know. At least Mike Sanders can kind of cut a promo. Jindrak can't do anything. He can stand there and look really good.
Sanders can't.
Yes. So,
also, Jindrak can wrestle a little bit. Sanders can't.
Yeah. So we then get a pre-tape promo with Percy Pringle. This was supposed to air on the 18th, but they had that Jarrett Vince Russo promo that went over 20 minutes, and this was one of the things that got cut. To be honest, I don't want to say there's no point to it, but there's really no point to it. It's like he teases he may do something in TNA, but that's about it. He talks about being a fan. He talks about working in Florida, Texas, and Continental, and it's really about it. The whole point was he's there to talk about the wrestling versus sports entertainment storyline that they're doing. And I hate to say this because, hey, I'm a fat person myself. He looked really fat here.
Yeah, I think he gets gastric bypass surgery a few months later.
Yeah, he does, like, I think August, September, October, because he gets it basically in preparation for his return as Paul Bearer. But like he had to be, I mean, I didn't have a scale, and then if I did, I'm not going back in time to weigh him. But if I had to guess, he was at least, 500 pounds.
Probably.
Yeah.
I will say I do like these interesting sit-down interviews. They're not long for this world. We will have a couple more of them, and then they get replaced by the interrogators.
Yes, it's serious Mike Tenay and Don West interviewing people.
Doesn't sound that bad.
Well, then we get what is far and away in like not even like an entirely different promotion suddenly started airing on TV over the next 20 minutes. Because we get what is far and away the best thing on this show by a million fucking miles. The NWA World Tag Team Champions, The New Church, with Belladonna, who is still here somehow, and Jim Mitchell versus America's Most Wanted. And a match that hadn't been promoted, wasn't talked about, didn't get plugged at any point during the show. And not only that, but it was called, what the hell do they call it? The Final Showdown, where no matter who wins, no matter what happens, this is the last match between these two teams. There will be no rematch. And for all intents and purposes, they did it with no build.
Right, because they had a couple of matches before that was supposed to be the blow off. Then the Harrises got inserted into it.
And again, Divine Storm still waiting for their number one contenders match. Divine Storm, who beat AMW at the beginning of December. So just
They
wanting to
probably
throw.
didn't want to have Divine Storm there without Trinity. She was
Oh,
probably doing stunt work for a movie at this point.
well, they weren't even in a dark match. Oh yeah. By the way, apparently there were two dark matches: CM Punk versus Colt Cabana and AJ Styles versus Adam Jacobs, both of which were better than everything on this show, including this tag team match, which says something because this tag team match fucking rocked. Um, this was the usual bloody fight we've seen between these four almost every week since the end of October. They mention again that the title can change hands via countout or DQ. Not that it matters because they fought all over the ringside area for 5 minutes and it was neither a countout nor a DQ. We degenerate into a tag team match and it became a pretty nifty bout at that point.
Yep.
And we mention this every week. Chris Harris and James Storm are showing time and again that they are more than just two green guys getting booked because they're locals who work cheap. Um, we had a nice false finish here where Slash hit Chris Harris with the slash and burn, but he turns around to mug for the camera and walked into a James Storm super kick. Harrison Storm with the titles won when Slash was tapping to a sharpshooter, but the referee was distracted. Slash took off his belt, which Harris got it and whipped Slash. The referee did not disqualify AMW, which appeared to be what should happen. Lee took off his belt, which was a bad idea because his pants kept falling down.
Oops.
Lee, yeah, Lee hit Harris with a tombstone. Harris hit Lee with a tombstone. The referee did not see a steel chair be brought into the ring or hear Storm's head bounce off of it. And every time Slash picked up the damn chair, referee Scott Armstrong would go talk to Brian Lee. Somehow I wrote AMW hit the death sentence on Slash on the chair to pick up the win and win their second tag team titles. Best match on the show to an incredible degree. 8.0 out of 10.
I gave it a 9 out of 10. I think both of us are on the same page here. I just liked it a little bit more than that. We do have another sad moment on the show. This is Belladonna's last appearance for TNA.
I honestly can't believe she was still here after that fucking bull rope match. I figured that was her being written off the show. But
Nope, and we won't see the new church for about a month and a half.
no, darn. So AMW literally gets 6 seconds to celebrate before we go to the back. Goldylocks is with Bullet Bob again. Goldie wants to know who Bob was talking to on the phone, and Bob once again blew her off. Okay, if this was a shoot, what's the point of this? Like, when you're watching real sports, if I'm watching the fucking NFL and they go to the sideline reporter who says she's going to interview the coach, and the coach walks by the camera and blows her off, you'd be like, why the hell did they air that?
No clue.
So then we get a match. Curt Hennig versus David Flair. But before I tell you the rest of it, let me reiterate. Curt Hennig versus David Flair in an axe handle on a pole match where David Flair comes out with a burlap sack. And the winner of this match is the person to grab the axe handle off of the pole. Remember that it is kind of important to the match. And then Hennig, and I'll be so sad we're not going to hear this anymore, but Hennig takes the mic before the match and reminds us that he got fired from the WWF for being a fucking jackass on a plane. And when I mentioned Flair brought a burlap sack with him to the ring, I was not making a mean joke about some trashy looking valet that they found in Nashville. He brought a literal sack with him to the ring. Then we get the match. David Flair, who was never any good, has somehow gotten worse.
Seems like The Undertaker, after his match with David Flair, when Undertaker flushed his head down the toilet, removed all of the wrestling abilities that David Flair had.
So, do you. The finish of this match.
Here we go.
We mentioned that the way to win this match is to climb the pole and get an axe handle that's hanging off of the pole. Curt Hennig, who is going to be the winner of the match, did not climb the pole to get the axe handle. He sent the future of professional wrestling, Chris Vaughn, up, and Chris Vaughn got the axe handle, and he brought it down. That's right. Curt Hennig won a match that he could not be bothered to win based on the rules of the match.
It gets better, by the way.
It gets better because this is his last ever match.
No. There's more than that. Because after Chris Vaughn grabs the axe handle, gives it to Curt, Curt essentially just pie faces him off the ringside apron. Chris Vaughn is like, what the fuck? Curt Hennig then does a couple of axe handle shots to David Flair and is declared the winner. And my brain exploded. And then,
because this feud must continue somehow, David attacked Curt with the burlap sack.
And kept beating on him for a minute before security was like, okay, that's enough. This has gone long enough and embarrassed everybody here. Get out of here.
Again, this is Curt Hennig's last ever match. He passes away next month. Like literally on this show, we're going to be talking about his death, and I'm going to be talking about David Von Erich's death on the other show at the exact same fucking time.
I'm going to count to 3, and both of us are going to give our score. Are you ready?
Oh, I can't imagine that, we didn't give the same score here, but sure.
1, 2, 3.
0
out of 10.
There were no little people. There was no Bruce, but this got a 0. I refuse to be nice, because it's Curt Hennig's last match.
You might hate me for saying this, but I'd rather watch a Bruce match than this again.
It's up for debate. I'm not sure what would be worse.
So Goldie's backstage for the 4th time this show, and outside of the locker room, and she's insulted by Desire for some odd reason. Essentially, Desire saying there's a new woman, Goldylocks, in her passive-aggressive way.
Oh, yeah, because she's at the SEX locker room, so she's not even really backstage. She's off to the side there. Because she was following David Flair. But it gets better. Because remember when I mentioned the Nitro Girls wrestling earlier?
Yep.
Well, do you remember Athena? And I'm not talking about Ember Moon, the Ring of Honor Women's Champion who got hit in the face with a bat during Wrestle Dynasty last night? No.
Are you serious?
Yes. That was the finish of the match, was Momo Watanabe hitting her with a baseball bat in the face.
So, Momo Watanabe is now Sami Callihan?
Apparently. Except this was a work... Well, I don't know how worked it was, but this was not a shattering Athena's face baseball bat to the face. But anyway, this is the woman who does who carries the ring robes to the back that they hold signs up that was on TNA that one time that Vince Russo, who went 50-50 with Ron Killings, got his ass kicked by this 110-pound woman on that episode.
Yeah.
That Athena ran over and attacked Desire. What we forgot to mention was before that happened, Desire shoved down Goldylocks. And Goldylocks got a real-life concussion from that. because
Uh-oh.
Goldylocks is not a trained wrestler. And I don't know if Athena is. I'm pretty sure Athena isn't. I don't know if I mean Desire actually is a trained wrestler to some degree anyway.
Athena is as well.
Okay. Well, this is fucking amateur hour wrestling. This is more Vince Russo saying anybody can wrestle.
And it turns out, no, not anybody can wrestle.
I'm fairly confident that you and I right now could have a better match than some of the people on this NWA TNA show.
Don't press your luck.
I bet you and I could have a better match than Curt Hennig and David Flair.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd probably be doing a bunch of wrestles or something, just basic wrestling stuff. Probably get like a 2 out of 10 by some
there you go.
jackasses who will probably review our show 22 years into the future.
Exactly. So then, because we can't have nice things on this show, Don West gets up to do the hard sell. And I'm like, okay, at the very least, we're going to get something fun here. We're going to get the Don West hard sell, which is always a fun thing to hear. And he announces that next week it's going to be Sonny Siaki versus Amazing Red and,
Okay.
and America's Most Wanted versus apparently a new team called Now What? Wait, that wasn't a new team. Instead, we got Now What because Mike Sanders showed up and took the microphone. And he grabs Mike Tenay by the lapels and told him to shut the fuck up. I wrote, he told him to shut the fuck up and wrestle Vince Russo next week. And then it got clarified that he meant to have an interview segment with Vince Russo next week. And I was more wondering who America's Most Wanted will actually wrestle because we can't even have Don West plug the matches. We can't even have Don West say America's Most Wanted are gonna wrestle, I don't know, the fucking Harris twins or something. You know, something. We can't fucking do that. We need to have shit happening all the fucking time, non fucking stop. You know, we can't let anything sit for a moment. Do you remember what happened on the show an hour ago? Neither do
No.
I. So then, because thankfully, like I said, these shows are going fairly fast, we have the three main event matches. And I I looked at this as three entirely separate matches. If you want to say it was one match, that's on you, but I said it was three different ones. And it starts with Jeff Jarrett versus Christopher Daniels, which was an all right match. And they made a point to say that even if Jarrett loses, he'll still face both Elix Skipper and Low Key. Okay, that's another nice touch.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that isn't a nice touch, that doesn't make sense, especially when they say that Jarrett's going to wrestle all three anyway, was the world title on the line here. Because
No.
BG James comes out in a few minutes to do commentary, and he keeps talking about how Jarrett's going to lose the title here. And I don't know.
I counter because BG is an idiot.
We'll get to that. So Daniels misses the BME. Jarrett hits the stroke, picks up the win. I gave that a 4.5 out of 10 because it was a pretty good little match. There's less than 20 minutes left in the show, so we're not getting three long matches here or anything.
No, these are like main event matches on a episode of Worldwide or Saturday Night or
I'm gonna say
98
three.
or
I was
something.
gonna say three Nitro matches in a row.
Okay.
So Jarrett wins. Elix Skipper hits the ring because it's already time for that match, and that's when BG comes down. He grabs Don West's headset and joins the commentary team. And I think he broke the fucking headset at this point because that was fucked up pretty much the rest of the show.
Yeah, it was.
Skipper goes for a big dive over the top rope and trips and lands on his fucking head. They brawl over the guardrail as we get a third headset plugged in, but that one barely works because Don West's audio was all fucked up here.
The glory of live pay-per-view, ladies and gentlemen.
BG wonders, while they're fighting through the crowd, BG wonders where his brother is because their brother, Scott Armstrong, is the referee. So I'm like, well, at least I'm not the only one who's wondering what the hell's up with the referees. The fans did not care because nobody actually thought Skipper was going to beat Jarrett. Daniels tries to interfere, but hits Skipper with a springboard clothesline. So Jarrett picks up the win here. I gave that a 2.0 out of 10. And Low Key runs in for the finish. At this point, both BG and Don West headsets stop working, but Don West is so fucking loud you can hear him through Tenay's headset, which was saying something because BG was sitting in between them. Um, Low Key slaps on the Dragon Sleeper as Daniels and Skipper run to the ringside area. Various referees run down to try to stop them. Jarrett gets out of it, knocking down everybody. And you know what? Occasionally Roman sells for people. Just saying here.
Yeah.
Uh, Jarrett hits a low blow and the stroke, but Skipper and Daniels run in for the DQ. 3.5 out of 10.
I have the last two matches as 3.0 across the board. So we evened out in our little gambit here. And
Pretty
then
much.
it's the usual TNA ending around this time period. Massive beatdown of Jarrett. People come in, and they has fight. AJ Styles comes out and beats up Jeff Jarrett. Does not side with Russo.
AJ, by the way, um, was beating down both Road Warriors as well. So
He got put
kudos,
over strong.
kudos to Hawk and Animal who hate selling, but they put over these people who are much smaller than them.
No, it's Hawk that hates selling. Animal
Well,
will sell.
it's not like Animal's a huge fan of it either, especially when you're somebody smaller than him. Russo
I want to
saw.
go back to that match with. I think this happened a couple of months after this. It was RVD and Kane versus the Road Warriors.
Yep, it was in May.
Yep. Uh, Choke slam, 5-star frog splash. Whoop.
Yeah, because there was talk about them getting a job, and well, they didn't.
Thanks, Hawk.
And then Hawk died like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Um, so Russo saunters to the ring and gives AJ the thumbs up, but Styles does not accept a hug from Russo and leaves. All of Sex hit the ring and beat down Jarrett before the fucking American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, hits the ring. And he single-handedly takes out the entire heel stable, all 8 of them. And that's how the show ends. I don't even want to discuss how the only 2 people on this show who are able to physically stand up to the 8-person heel group are Jeff Jarrett and Dusty Rhodes.
See, Dusty Rhodes is over, Daddy. I've been over since 1973.
God. This fucking show. It could not end fast enough, and it was, like I said, it was going pretty damn fast, but it was not going fast enough sometimes.
Nope. Let's just get this over with. Average show and fuck it, 2 out of 10 all around.
So match quality 3.5, overall enjoyment 3.0. You've seen Car Crash TV. Well, this is Car Crash pay-per-view. The fans were burned out by the end. Future build on a show with David Flair and Mike Sanders being built as top heels. Future build 1.5 out of 10. Not only do we have David and Mike Sanders, we have a feud with the untrained women of this company. We have half the fucking roster being buried. They're building up one match. One match they're building up. Jeff Jarrett versus Vince Russo. And no one wants to fucking watch that.
And I don't think that match ever happens.
Overall rating 2.67 out of 10.
2.0 out of 10. Let's get this over with.
All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? You were saying you had some stuff to say earlier.
Oh, right. About how Harris and Storm were able to get Dusty's number.
Yes.
I think around this time period, wasn't Dusty like having like an organization in Georgia around this time?
Yes, but that's not in canon. In canon, why would they have his number?
Because they worked for him in Georgia.
But to TNA doesn't know that.
But Bullet Bob did.
I don't know. Uh, I think that's a little too much of a jump, if you ask me.
Look, it's TNA. Nothing's too big of a jump.
Alrighty. So that's fucking it. Thank the fucking God this show is fucking over.
Can I go back to playing Far Cry 4 now?
Yes, you can. Anything else you want to say to the lovely people before we finish up?
Yeah. Potatoes. They're
Pota-
delicious.
Potatoes. Yes, they are. Well, thank you to everyone for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the rantings of two mad people, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.